Well, it's 4 minutes, and if there's anybody else that's gonna jump on, they have a chance to.
Okay.
But this may be it. So,
that's all right.
Happens. All right. Do you know what? Did you remember our discussion on Thursday? We were talking about being people of heaven versus people of earth.
Yes, I do remember that.
And do you remember kind of like how the discussion went? And I was talking about how in modern academia, we've really put a focus on being people of earth instead of people of heaven. Right. Yeah, it's kind of like a reaction, sort of like a it's a postmodern reaction to modernism, because modernism is very much of the mindset that we are all people. It's very metaphysical, right? And we're all people of we are people of earth. We're people of like the metaphysical, right? So however people term that, they may not think of themselves as people of heaven, but they think of themselves as people of the of ideals, right? So, we talked about that, but then we also talked about how the postmodern movement has really reacted against that and just really, really saturated everything with the idea of we are people of the earth now. And so we've had a whole reaction against that. You go, modern academia, really, the studies have really focused on ancient populations, indigenous populations, very, very anti-Western sort of thought process that they're provoking, and they really romanticize everything pre-Western, like colonial or anything like that. So, but what we talked about is that if you're going to be a person of the gospel, then you have to value the things of you have to value the things of heaven. So you can't value just the things of earth. And we are people of heaven and not just people of earth. Anyway, we'll get into that. So now that this is working, we're ready to go. Okay. And we're going to get, we'll get started. Hello, everybody that's joined. It's obviously not a massive number. This is what I told my dad, who thankfully is here with me. Introduce yourself, Reverend.
Oh, my name is Reverend Burkhart. Good to be with you this evening.
The retired Reverend Reverend Burkhart.
Yes, retired.
Is here with us. This is my special guest who has more titles than I do. But what we're doing here is, this is about this launch is about the Epic of Ryn, and I wanted to involve you in it just because you've had a very intricate part of this process. There's been plenty of other people that have as well. Mm-hmm. Namely like people that have worked on art and editing. My wife, who has done, Nicole's done quite a bit. There's been a lot of people that have really helped out. But you were available. I knew you'd be available at time to be able to talk about it. And we've had a lot of talks about it, too.
Yes, we have.
About the book. And so there's a lot that we could discuss. But I do have a major update. I just want to make sure everybody knows. This has been a 20-year project. I think it's going on 23 years. If you have read the prelude in book 1, you'll know that I started this book in 2000. And actually, the main character, when I started the book in 2000, when I was going to SNU, that was Tri-Jin, which is actually Ryn's dad. The father of the Krovan Nation. So, Tri-Jin, I did sideline the book because I really felt like I was being impressed by the Holy Spirit. It's not time to write this yet. Maybe because the story wasn't hashed out like it was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And I went ahead and shelved it for about a year, worked on some other things, and then came back and started working on it again. And it took me about probably about 3 years to really nail about 3 or 4 years to really nail the whole story and get it all out. But between 2000, all the world building was done 2000, 2001, and then from there I just hammered out the story, finishing it all up 2005, 2006 for the first time. Which it looks, there was actually like a lot of work was put into that summer while I was working for Camfell, really nailing the rest of that book and getting it done. But anyway.
I was just going to say, it seemed like, I don't know if it was the summer before that or when it was, but I remember you being home from college one summer, and it was like every day you were just pounding away on writing that thing.
Yeah. And it's gone through about, how many edits? I've probably completely re-edited the book about 4 or 5 times. And honestly, quite a bit. And those are like complete edit rewrites. Not full rewrites, but like I've made some major, not just copy editing, just some major story editing. So this has gone through a lot of reworking over the last 20 years. I've submitted it to publishers and been denied, or, a lot of times having publishers say, yeah, this is great, but we're not going to, we can offer you a subsidized model, not like we have to pay in to get it published. And I almost did that a couple of times before landing on, we're just going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do this myself. Just because of either finances or because just the cost. Editing is one of the things that costs the most. If you want to get a book edited, it is a lot of money. We're talking thousands upon thousands of dollars. So that's pretty rough. So anyway, that being said, the Epic of Ryn, over the course of all these years, I have had to work on editing it. And myself, and I've contracted people to do the artwork. Before I kind of delay I don't want to delay any longer. I'll just let you know the really big update on this work is that I've finished a complete overhaul of all 4 books, and the big news is that if you go on Amazon right now, book 1, book 2. Book 3 and Book 4, all 4 are now published on Amazon in the ebook form. And the paperback version of Book 4 is still in review.
Okay.
Basically, that was my fault. I sent it up for review, and there was one error in it. And it was unfortunately something that they couldn't just publish and be done with. So, sadly, that has to be kicked back to me, and then I have to send it back up. And anyway, so that one's in progress, and that paperback version will be available as well. So obviously, the artwork is significantly better because I redid all the artwork. I did actually end up going with a new artist just because, and that's been the big delay. Just to make sure I get that out there, the big delay with getting all this done has been that my first artist, which was a real good friend of mine, he was not able to continue due to some things that came up. And so he did the first 2, and then he had to drop out. And so I actually, someone who's very professional, his name is Sean Encarnacion. By the way, the first one was Rich Birdsong, which Rich did a great job. I loved his 2 covers. But then Sean came in and has redone all 4 covers, and he did it in a very short period of time. He did it in about, what was it, like 3 months?
Yeah, it didn't take him long.
Yeah, he did about 3 months.
Really pushed himself.
Now, the thing about Sean is probably a guy that is typically way above my pay grade. Sean is actually, he actually has a very professional profile. He does this for a living. His biggest client is the Las Vegas Raiders. So he does a lot of really good stuff. So for him to stretch himself for me which was really nice, and I really appreciate that.
Just don't let that hold it against him. Okay.
Right. That's Las Vegas, and maybe if you're watching and you're not a Las Vegas fan, just don't think about that. But it was really good. And so obviously his artwork is excellent. You can go on Amazon. You can see it right now. I mean, I have a couple of examples in front of me. I don't know how well you can see them. Actually, let me see if I have this. Yep. I do have a sticker I can show. So that right there is book number 1. And you can see the kind of artwork that he did. Looks a lot better. I mean, it's very sharp. And I do like where he went better to match the style of the book. So I don't know, but it does have more of a fantasy sort of, almost an animated sort of feel to it.
It's true.
Just the way the characters are put together. But that's just book 1. Obviously, book 2, book 3, and book 4 have their own unique look. They're all redone. Except for 3 and 4 done for the first time. Yeah. But you can look those all up on Amazon. You should be able to find those. They're all available. So anyway, just wanted to try and I just wanted to let you know that all those are available. I do apologize for taking so long. And, the copy editing was a big part of that. We did go back and do a two full rounds of copy edits with each book again before publication. So that means book 1, book 2, and book 3 and book 4 have received another round of copy editing. So, I saw that Jess put in there she found one typo. So hopefully that was resolved. There was a lot of work put in by yourself and then me to do that copy editing. Yeah. And it included like doing electronic and then also doing like a paper review. And so there's been a lot of hours of work in order to get that.
True.
But it also means I think you've read the story 3 or 4 times now at this point.
At least.
Yeah.
Over the years I've read it probably more, but
so it's really neat to have it out and have all 4 available. I will say that, I being like a completely almost unknown artist, I think to date I've sold maybe just over 100 copies, between like all of my different books. And so it's a really big deal to have anybody that likes and then shares it and then talks about it. One of the things that strikes me is that, and I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for everyone. Me and Nicole actually have a group at our church that is kind of like a network of creative people that are within that we're all deeply spiritual. We're all Christians, and we all feel like the media of our modern world, all the blockbuster media, is just morally very, very, how do I say this? It's bad. It's morally decrepit. They throw a lot of stuff in there and there's a lot of dark themes, and a lot of people don't realize, like when you're watching something on primetime TV, it may have an entertaining story. It may have some positive elements to it. Maybe there's elements of redemption. There's elements of righteousness and elements of friendship and love and all this sort of stuff. But the problem is that those elements are not necessarily, they're comboed with things that are not good. They're unrighteous elements.
True.
And you have things that are stuck in there all the time that lead to a perception of humanity or yourself or a direction that really equates to darkness and death and takes you down a path of not appreciating life and your relationships and love and things like that. So really what the aim of our group with our church and with some extended other people from other churches and other creative groups, which that group's called Project Way, by the way, but that whole group's dedication is to produce content and help other people who think like us produce content that is morally positive, but it's also blockbuster type content. And I published a video earlier on my YouTube about that. And our goal is to create the type of blockbuster content that you would like to see when you turn on your TV or you go to the movie theater. But it's not full of all those elements that are extremely questionable. Yeah. Right? So there's a huge need for that. And let me explain why there's a huge need for that. Because what happens is this. Those of us who have moral accountability, whether we're Christians or not, I mean, regardless of who it is and what stock you come from, those of us who believe in moral accountability and believe in good ethics and an ethic of life, we tend to have this proclivity to exclude the creative work of people within our fold, within our demographic, because it's not quite perfect, right? Or it's not church. It's not right for church, because obviously you can't play blockbuster content at church because it's not G-rated, right? You couldn't play it. Some pastors have done it, but there's some scenes from like movies like The Matrix or Speed or any other blockbusters over the last 20 years. Some of them, any one of these, right? And I just aged myself with a bunch of really old videos at this point.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't take those videos and put them up on screen at church because you have a G-rated crowd and people be really upset. Because it's not
like Lord of the Rings would even though it was a great story and everything, you probably couldn't show that at church.
No, you can't. I mean, and there's scenes from Chronicles of Narnia you probably couldn't, and people would have a problem with. So you can't, and that's C.S. Lewis, who has inspired the whole Christian community.
Yeah.
But all these efforts, what ends up happening is we exclude people within our fold that publish these works or try to do this because it's not perfect, it's not quite right. And then what that ends up doing is excluding them from the market pool. And then we go home, and because it's secular, people will watch Game of Thrones, and they'll watch like CSI, and they'll watch like all these other shows that have these other messages. And those shows are fine. You can enjoy those shows to a certain extent. I mean, there's obviously some scenes in Game of Thrones I wouldn't recommend. But there's things in those shows that do not share our values, right? And so it really is time to promote media that shares our values, that has the blockbuster content that people want to enjoy. So that's the goal of the Epic of Ryn, is to do that. And hopefully when you read it, you will enjoy it. All the books, paperback except number 4, should be available on Amazon right now. I don't know if there is some kind of delay with book 3. It does say it's live. So Donna, thanks for asking. I'm not sure if there's an issue, but it should. Yeah, as far as I know from my author portal, everything is live. But they do say, some things can take up to 24 hours. So maybe it'll be there tomorrow if it's not today. So I guess I'll keep an eye on that and make sure that everything is good. But from the past, it has always been sufficient. So, but thank you for bringing that to my attention, if that's an issue. So some other things I just want to finish up with, okay? I have one more decent theological thought that I want to give to everybody, okay, about the Epic of Ryn. Mm-hmm. And then I have one more just piece of for like just housekeeping for this as well. So the housekeeping thing I can do first. If you have already purchased book 1 and book 2, obviously you could go on Amazon and you could buy them now, right? They're all the books are $13.99. If you bought them from me and you would like author copies again, right? I realize that some of you have already bought 1 and 2, and what you could do is you could just buy 2. You could just buy 3 and 4, and that would be totally fine. You can do what you want. It's not like the story drastically changed between the copy edits and things like that. There's just a few things. It's mainly just copy editing, so it's not like the story changed. Right? No. So it would be fine to just keep the number 1, 2. Now, if you want the new artwork and stuff like that, and you're really interested in it, I am totally okay with if you order through me, like book 3 and book 4. And I get you because I can sell them for cheaper than Amazon. So I can. Well, there's a catch. I can sell them for cheaper myself. The problem is that I have to pay more for shipping because I'm not as big as Amazon. I don't get the really special deal on the shipping. If you have Prime, you get it for free shipping. So that's great. But I sell the books for $10, right? So if I can sell you 2 for $10. Plus the shipping, and then I would also throw in number 1 and number 2 for free, in order to compensate that. Deal. Right. So that was I had thought long and hard about it, and I thought what do I do for people who've already bought 1 and 2? It seems kind of unfair, right? Sure. They already have the older books. And like I said, unless you're totally fine having 1 and 2 the older books, but that was the way I came up with compensating for it. I could just send you all 4 for that price. The next thing, I obviously it does matter that you can just last housekeeping thing. Reviews really matter. So if you do,
they do.
Yeah, having a copy signed by me is great. But to be honest, I would really, really probably prefer that people buy on Amazon, even though it's not about me making money. I don't care about making money, because I think my commission off of Amazon is $1 or $2. Like it's really, really cheap. But here's the thing: when you order on Amazon, you can leave a review. So, and if you really wanted to, you could buy the copy from me, the paper copy, and then you could buy the electronic copy off of Amazon, maybe, if you want. Because then once you buy the ebook, then you can leave a review.
Right.
But the reviews are huge in promoting the books, and
That's
Amazon
right.
doesn't. If people do like a web search, and they even put in like Epic of Ryn, unless the book has reviews and it's been around, like it won't even pop up. So you have to. Reviews really help push the organic. That's what we call it. And the more good reviews there are, then the more organic it's going to have. What's going to come up. So I would really appreciate that, and if you wanted to do that. So last thing that I'll leave with, we do got to wrap this up eventually.
Yeah, probably should.
Yeah,
well, we could ramble on for a while. Yeah.
I know, right? We just sit here and chat for like 2 hours.
Sure.
Let everybody be on. Okay, but here's the deal. The Epic of Ryn, as a story, we opened up this session, and if you're listening, you may have missed it, but we opened up this session talking about the people of Earth versus people of heaven, right?
That's right.
And how there's a huge movement in academia, which is being filtered into our culture, that we are people of Earth, not people of heaven, right? And this is really a reaction against Western civilization's high-mindedness and their metaphysicalness, right? Because Western civilization became very metaphysical through the process of the 17th, 18th, 19th century, all the way up to the 20th century. And people have pointed out that, Western thinkers, Western people in general, just have very metaphysical thought processes. We think about ideals before we think about some practical things. That's not always the case, because there's been practical thought processes, earthen thought process all throughout Western society. But
sure,
but it's a proclivity to it. So the Earth, obviously, the postmodern movement has been to take us back to Earth, right? In that we are people of Earth. We focus on Earth. There are some, without going into rehashing everything we discussed earlier, what that means, right? I will say that being earthen, there is a time to realize our earthenness, right? Because we are people of Earth, but at the same time, we are also people that go from Earth and we reach for the heavens. And
right.
People forget that. People forget that, and they get stuck in the earthenness of humanity. And by earthenness, I mean all the things that are just the most basic earthen thing is our carnal nature, right? Carnal nature, proclivity to be like either, lazy, not want to work, want to be satiated, want to be satisfied,
selfishness,
selfishness, things like that. But it's also, higher, a little bit higher things that aren't necessarily like bad as things, but they can also be divisive, like race and ethnicity, and things like that. So our culture has a tendency to tell everybody that now we're all just people of Earth. We're people locked into our base instincts. And if modern academia has even taken the approach that everyone boils down to their basic instinct of whatever they are within their culture, their race, their mindset, and basically those all set up ecosystems, so to speak. Ecosystems is my word. That's a really good word. Obviously I'm actually referring to works by people like James Cone and Dr. Jennings, and there's some really smart people that have talked about this already. But if you were to take those people, right, and you realize that when they build societies, they develop systems. Those systems become ecosystems that benefit themselves, right? That's a pretty common modern thought. So what that does is you're saying people of different races, ethnicities, and different blood, basically is a more ancient term for it, that they build ecosystems that others are not designed to thrive in. So the difference all of a sudden between somebody of race A and race B, one is kind of like a tree and it thrives in the forest. One's a fish, it thrives in the pond, and they really can't succeed in each other's ecosystem. In fact, the ecosystem of the others is so custom fit for themselves that the other one really is just not going to survive. Isn't going to do well. So obviously, this view that we're all earthen and we are down to our basic earthen makeup, our carnal nature, all this sort of stuff, really has the ability to divide us, because now there's no shared space. We can't reconcile with each other. We can't live with each other. We're divided by blood. If you know anything about the Epic of Ryn, it is really, really big on the blood, and it's really talking about the precursor to blood feuds, which was the ancient concept that blood defines everything, and that if our blood is not different, if we're not family, if we're not related, then we're completely different. We think different, we live different, we're built different, and we can never be the same. Right? And so that goes back to blood feuds, where we're constantly at war with each other. We can't trust each other. An offense against one is an offense against all. And an offense against all is an offense against any one. And what that does is create eternal conflict and eternal chaos. And we can no longer be united. We can't help each other. We can't fit together. Right? So obviously the Epic of Ryn is speaking against that. Ryn learns throughout the course of these 4 books that the blood does not define everything. He's learning something that ancient people at this time in history, in this theoretical point in history, are not aware of, that the blood is superseded by these things, that there is a shared space above the earth that we all can come together. And this is a view of humanity and of the church and community that I prefer, and I think is an exceptional model. That maybe, yes, we are people of earth. We're like plants in the ground. We come out of the earth, but we also reach to heaven. And as we reach for that same goal, the divine, the ideal, whatever it is, right? And for those that are in the church that are Christians, that's God, that's Christ.
That's right.
Right? So as we reach for that, we come together in a shared space where we're no longer divided, but we share that space together. And it's only by coming to that point that we can share that space together. If we stay locked in our earthiness, where we are born divided, unable to understand each other by language, ethnicity, race, culture, we can't cross those barriers if we just stay earth. But if we reach for heaven, then we have shared space to be able to grow together. And that's where shared space happens. That's where community happens. That's where the kingdom happens. And so you see that in many different scales. You have not just smaller scales, but larger scales too, because it's personal. Like if even me and my wife come from 2 different cultures, right? So if me and my wife come from 2 different cultures with different mindsets, we've had to learn how to share space together so we can share our lives together, right? If we just automatically just assumed that I live in my own shared space and you can't touch my shared space because we'll never understand each other. We speak different languages. Our minds think differently. Like, communication itself is obsolete and impossible if you cannot share space. So I want you just to understand the scope of this issue. If you just boil people down that far to the earthen level, basic communication and language is pointless, right? People have to be able to understand. Just to communicate, you're reaching above the earth a certain amount. And so that's the point I'm getting at. You reach towards the divine together as we draw closer to the goal that also brings us closer together in likeness as well. Does that make sense? The more Christ-like you are, the more Christ-like I am, the more we share that space together, the more we understand each other.
And it seems like our culture, society, world systems today are driving us to become people of earth more than people of heaven, because that's what they want.
Yeah. And I do want to preface that, I want to qualify that there is a time to remember we are people of earth, right? God made us out of the earth. There is a time that we need to take care of our earthly needs and our bodies, and we need to understand, like, we have family and stuff like that. So, those are important, right? We can't just forget, like the metaphysicists and the high philosophers, that, that we don't, we value in the earth. God made us in both, but we can't become nothing but earth. God made us out of the earth, but he made us to reach to heaven.
That's right.
So anyway, I hope you understand that. And I hope when you read the Epic of Ryn, you do get that, because, it's just very, very contradictory to the idea of the blood is everything. There's blood feuds, and I don't want to blow too much of the story if you haven't read it, but over the course of the story, Ryn meets several characters that kind of blow his perception of the blood, including like people that are enemies, like legit enemies. They come from races or ethnicities or cultures that are trying to destroy his, have been working to destroy his for the last 50 years, helping the main antagonist commit genocide. And yet they turn around and they become allies, and they help understand that they understand Ryn, and they become part of they become a part of a shared space, a shared system that they all understand together because of who they believe in and who they give their allegiance to without blowing anything.
Yeah. So. And, the thought struck me as you were saying that is that for us as Christians, there's only one blood that matters. It's the blood of Christ that unites us all and unifies us.
Yeah, it's definitely the most important blood.
You bet.
Okay. So. Well, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up. I really have enjoyed being able to get on here, and I'm glad that I've had I've had people jump on and listen, so that's great. If you have any questions about the books, please let me know. I would love to be able to answer those. If you'd like to get in contact with me again about purchasing them from me, that's fine. Although do understand that my author copies haven't come in yet, so that's going to be a little bit. So if you want them now, do buy them on Amazon, right? Donna, let me know how it goes. If you're able to order tomorrow, that would be amazing. I just want to make sure that works out. And then for book 4, just remember the ebook is available now, but book 4 paperback is not, and that is my fault due to an error. That is my fault. I put the wrong. Just being open and honest, I put the wrong ISBN in the text. So my apologies. And so Amazon caught me out. They're like, "Oh no, you've used this ISBN before. You can't get away with that one.
No,
you got to buy another one." So that's my bad. I had an ISBN purchased. I just didn't update the text. I had an old ISBN in there. So
rookie mistake.
It is a rookie. It's total noob.
That's all right.
Total noob mistake.
No,
anyway, I really appreciate all of you. Thanks for jumping on. If you can. If you agree with everything that we said tonight, help be supporters of the book. Help be supporters of just the movement of just replacing some of this media out there that is just does not reflect our values. Don't accept that. Like I said, just really, really, really push for creators that are just share the values that we have and will give you content. What am I trying? I'm just trying to say, don't fund content that doesn't share your values.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and also, you may not agree with everything we said, but that's okay. It's a great read, and man, you'll enjoy it. And
did you not agree with everything I said? Would you not agree?
Well, no, I'm saying there might be someone out there who may not.
That's true. I mean, there's plenty of those, but what did you disagree with?
No, I didn't say I didn't disagree. I'm saying there might be someone out there. I was just trying to talk to them. No, it's okay for them to read.
You're fine. I'm just not picking it.
I know.
Okay. All right. We're going to go. I really appreciate your time. Y'all have a wonderful Saturday evening.
Yep.